Hello kids, welcome to the part 1 video for the lesson Soil. Soil is one of our most precious resources for various reasons. This lesson is a continuation of what you have learned about soil in grade 4. In grade 4, remember that you have learned about the components of soil, the process of soil formation through weathering, and also the types of soil. Let's take a look at what more you're going to learn about soil this year. By the end of this video, you will be able to recognize the importance of soil, identify the processes involved in soil formation, and also describe the soil profile. Take a look at these pictures. Can you give a collective name for them? Air, water, soil, trees, forests, wildlife, coal, petroleum, natural gas, minerals. They are all different natural resources. Soil is a natural resource. Recall what we have learned about soil in grade 4. We've learned that soil is formed over long periods of time. In fact, it takes more than 1,000 years to form just an inch, that is 2.5 centimeter, of soil. Time period for soil formation also depends upon the material from which the soil is formed and the conditions around it at that period of time. Soil has primarily 4 components: rock fragments such as gravel, sand, and clay particles, dead and living things which are collectively called as humus, water, and air. You take around 2 cups of garden soil into a jar and fill it with water and give it a good mix. These components will separate down into different layers within a couple of hours. This is because the materials which make up the clay, silt, sand, gravel, humus are made up of particles of different sizes and shapes as well as characteristics. The parent material is generally a huge rock from which soil is made of. Parent material breaks down into smaller and smaller particles with the help of rain as well as wind. This process is known as weathering of rocks. Weathering and erosion are 2 processes which go hand in hand. When a huge piece of rock, called as the parent material, breaks down into smaller pieces because of the forces of nature, such as water, plant roots, or wind, it is called as weathering. So weathering is a natural process that slowly breaks apart and changes a rock into smaller and smaller pieces. Heat, water, wind, living things such as plants and small burrowing animals, and other natural forces cause weathering. Over many years, weathering can shape rock into unusual formations like these. These structures are not man-made but were caused due to constant weathering over millions of years by forces of nature such as wind or water. So once a rock breaks down into smaller pieces, what happens to it? Rock that is broken down into smaller pieces is what we call as soil. Soil once formed can get carried away by these same forces which cause weathering, that is wind or water. The carrying away of this broken down material which is formed by weathering is called as erosion. The soil that is carried away because of erosion can get deposited whenever the wind slows down or whenever the flow of water slows down. This process is called as deposition. Deposition is a process by which the soil that is carried away by erosion is collected in a new place or spot. All 3 processes are natural and are continuously happening in nature, causing the formation of different landforms and changing the way the land around us looks over a long period of time. Now let's take a look at the importance of soil and why soil is considered as a precious natural resource. It would not take you much to figure out why soil is important, because plants grow in soil. It's soil which provides the heat, the nutrients, the water that is required for plants to grow. Roots of the plants as well as the soil together form the habitat or the homes for many millions of tiny microorganisms and other living organisms in the soil. These living organisms are what gives life to the soil because they play an important role in nutrient cycling. What do you mean by nutrient cycling? Remember what you have learned about the water cycle? How water moves continuously within the earth and the atmosphere through many different processes? Similarly, the nutrients which are required for plants as well as animals become through the soil. The soil provides the nutrients that are required for the plants to grow in a healthy way and to make its fruits as well as vegetables. When animals eat plants, they incorporate and build their own bodies using these nutrients which come from plants. Plants as well as animals die later on. These nutrients are decomposed or broken down by the living organisms in the soil that we talked about earlier, and in this way the nutrients are returned back into the soil. So this process of the nutrients going from the soil to living organisms and then coming back to the soil by the decomposition of dead living organisms is called as nutrient cycling. Soil also plays a very important role in filtering water. The water that passes through layers and layers of soil gets filtered before it gets collected deep under layers of rock as groundwater. Soil, therefore, is important for the continuation of life on earth, and the chances of availability of food to feed an ever-growing population on the planet Earth depends on how well we take care of our soil resources. If you have ever tried digging deep into the soil, you would see that it gets difficult after a certain period of time. This is because soil is not made of the same kind of material throughout. Soil has different layers, and these layers are also called as horizons. The layers can be identified by the color, size, and the properties of these particles which make them up. The different layers of the soil are the organic layer or litter or humus. The litter or humus or organic layer is a thin layer that is formed by the dead and decaying organisms, which include leaf, dead animals have fallen on the soil and are slowly decomposing or decaying back into the topmost layer of the soil. Beneath the organic layer or litter or humus is a layer which is called as the topsoil. Remember that the word organic means anything that is obtained from living things and that can be broken down, decomposed, and that can go back into the soil without leaving any trace of it. The topsoil is a soil layer that comes directly beneath the organic layer. The topsoil is the layer of soil which is richest in nutrients, microorganisms, as well as small worms. This is easy to understand because the nutrients that are formed because of the decomposition of the organic layer directly above it can easily mix into the topsoil. Beneath the topsoil is a layer of soil called as the subsoil, which is different in color as well as the material it is made of. Then comes another layer called as the parent material or regolith, which is mostly made up of gravel and stones. Beneath the parent material or regolith is a layer called as the bedrock, which is not soil but solid rock. Each layer of soil has its own distinct characteristics about which we will be seeing next. Now remember that if we dig this deep into the soil at different locations, the soil profile, that is the thickness of each of these layers, can vary. It is the soil profile which helps one to differentiate a given sample of soil from other soil samples. and it depends on factors like the color, the texture, the structure, as well as the thickness and chemical composition of the soil layers. The soil layers in a soil profile are also known by the name horizon. Using this table, we will compare each of these layers on the basis of the amount of humus and minerals present, the color and material it is made up of, the presence of microorganisms, and the presence of water and air. The topmost layer, which is called as the organic layer, is also called as the O horizon. It is rich in leaf litter and humus. It is dark in color and it has a moderate amount of microorganisms present in it because it is made up of decomposing organic material. It's also directly exposed to water and air. Beneath the organic layer comes the topsoil, which is also known by the name A horizon. Horizon is very rich in organic material which is got by the decomposition of the organic layer above it, but it has lesser of minerals or soil particles. Of the topsoil is very dark and it is very rich in microorganisms and burrowing worms. And because of the presence of the microorganisms and the burrowing worms, water as well as air can penetrate into the topsoil and are present in the layer that is the topsoil. Beneath the topsoil is a layer called as the subsoil or the B horizon. The B horizon has lesser of organic material, but it is rich in minerals. This is because the organic material of the topsoil are used up by the plants and they do not reach the subsoil. It is light in color as compared to the topsoil and it has few microorganisms present as compared to the topsoil. It is mostly made up of water as well as rock because water can penetrate up to this layer. Beneath the subsoil, we find a layer which is called by the name C horizon or parent material or regolith. This layer has no organic matter at all. It is made up of broken rock. Therefore, it has no plant or animal life present in it at all. This layer filters the water because it is made up of very small gravel or rock. Beneath this layer is a layer called as the R horizon or bedrock. The bedrock is made up of solid rock and it has absolutely no organic matter present in it. For this reason, it is considered as rock and not as soil, even though it is a part of the soil profile. It acts as a reservoir or collecting chamber for the groundwater. So the process of soil formation would begin from the bedrock. The water which reaches the bedrock slowly starts breaking it down and it breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces of stones, which forms the C horizon or parent material. The C horizon or parent material further breaks down and mixes with the minerals which are rich in the subsoil, forming the subsoil layer or B horizon. The subsoil, when it's mixed with more and more organic material, forms the topsoil. The organic material comes because of the decomposition of the litter that lies just above it. As it was mentioned earlier, if you look at the soil profile of soil from different places, the soil layers would appear very different. Therefore, the soil profile would be different from forest to forest and from place to place. Keep in mind, children, a quote said by one of the most famous US presidents, Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt said that the nation that destroys its soil destroys itself. In his words lie the wisdom that it is the soil that provides us the material to feed ourselves, and therefore it is our duty to conserve, preserve, and take care of our soil resources. So I will leave you with that thought and I will see you in the next video for this lesson. Until then, stay curious and keep learning.